Hi, my name is Maya and I will guide you through this demonstration. Installation of the dwgExplore is very simple. Once you download the release package from our website, you should start it with the Run as Administrator option. During the installation, the dwgExplore copies itself into the same folder with AutoCAD. Usually that folder is Program Files. This is the reason that administrative privileges during the installation process are necessary. Once the installation starts, the usual steps as in any other installation will follow. The license agreement should be accepted and the destination folder specified. The dwgExplore detects all versions of AutoCAD installed on the system. You can select those versions you want the dwgExplore installed on. By default, the dwgExplore selects all of them. The next step is installation itself. That is all there is to it. The dwgExplore for AutoCAD is now installed. The only thing left is to activate the program. The first AutoCAD session after the dwgExplore installation should also be started with Run as Administrator option. During the startup, the dwgExplore will automatically start its trial period. You can either purchase the software license and activate the product, or you can continue using the trial version. After the installation, the dwgExplore's functions are available through the menu, or in the ribbon, or in the context menu. This is all that needs to be known about the product installation. Find Exact Match functionality is intended to be used to find patterns that are copy-pasted in the drawing. First, some basic functions of this option will be explored in a dummy drawing, and then we will switch to an actual sample. So here in this drawing there is a simple pattern that is composed of several primitive AutoCAD objects: lines, arcs, curves. This is not a block reference. Let's make a copy of it. We should copy it, then paste it. Now let's find the exact match of this pattern. We should select it, open the context menu, and in the context menu there is CPP Tools submenu, where Find Exact Match option can be found. Find Exact Match dialog is now open. In the dialog box, a preview of the target pattern can be seen, as well as the list of basic pattern properties, including the host file name, layout name, number of entities in the pattern, and pattern size. Here we can define parameters that are important for the search. The most important options can be found here, under the Geometry tab. We can specify if we want to search for the pattern of the same or any size, of the same orientation or any orientation. As an example, let's search for the pattern of the same rotation, which means that the search is not rotation invariant, and of the same size, which means that the search is not scale invariant either. Let's press Run. The results will appear. Two patterns can be seen: the target pattern itself and pattern created with copy and paste. Let's try something else. Let's use this pattern here to create an array. We will create polar array of this pattern. So let's make it polar. Let's enter 16 and pick the center point. As a result, 17 patterns are shown. One is the initial pattern, and there are additional 16 patterns rotated and placed in a circle. If the same search as before is performed, only 2 patterns in the result set will be shown again. Remaining patterns have different orientation. With a repeated search and with rotation invariant option selected, dwgExplore will find all 17 patterns, target pattern itself, and other 16 patterns that are all rotated versions of the target pattern. We could scale the target pattern. For example, we could make it smaller. In this case, we should use the scale command here. And if the same search as before is performed now, the result will only show the target pattern. Scales of other patterns are different. If we want other patterns to be found, we need to define the search parameters differently. In this scenario, we need to check Scale Invariant option as well. Now we can instruct dwgExplore to search for patterns that are of any orientation and of any size in respect to the target pattern. This time, as it can be seen here, in the result set there are 17 patterns yet again. In the list, it can be noticed that the scale of the target pattern is 1, and the scale of all other patterns is 3.03. It will now be considered what will happen if portions of some of these patterns are deleted. For example, let's delete this, and delete this, and delete this, and let's delete this portion. And now let's perform the search once more. As it can be observed in the result set, here is the target pattern, as well as additional 10 patterns that were not modified with previous deletes, i.e. patterns that are still complete. Other patterns are not included in the result set. If we want to search for patterns that may only be portions of the target pattern, dwgExplore can perform that as well. We should first select the target pattern. Then a partial match option should be selected. Under the partial match option, there is an additional parameter, minimal number of entities in matching pattern. By using it, we can specify the minimal part or portion of the matching pattern we are looking for. As it can be seen, the number of entities in the target pattern is 15, so let's enter 5 as a minimum acceptable number of entities in a matching pattern. As a result, dwgExplore has found all 17 matching patterns again. The target pattern itself, that can be recognized in the list by its scale, and additional 16 patterns which are rotated and scaled versions of the initial pattern. There is an additional column here, named Count. It represents the number of entities in the result set pattern. First 11 entries in this list are patterns that are complete versions of the target pattern, and then there are patterns that are only partial match versions of the target pattern. This one has 14 entities. In other words, only one element is missing in respect to the target. Here there are 11, so 4 entities are deleted. Here there are 10 entities, so 5 entities are missing. And here there are only 6 entities, meaning that 9 entities are missing, but dwgExplore has managed to find them all nonetheless. Partial matching can be used in combination with the replace option. For example, if you want to modify patterns by inserting a circle inside of the chair symbol, which is a part of these patterns, we can easily achieve it by using the replace option. In order to do this, in the dwgExplore dialog box, we should switch to Target and Replacement tab. Then click on Replacement link, and the Replacement Editor document gets opened. In this drawing, the target pattern is copied and colored in dark gray. It is there to help users position replacement pattern any way they want. As an example, let's insert something that can easily be noticed. Let's draw a circle and set its color to red. Let's also put a line and set its color to red. There are now 2 entities here, a circle and a line as a replacement pattern. The context menu should then be opened, and on the CPP tool submenu, Pick Replacement option should be selected. Here, a preview of the replacement pattern as well as previews of both replacement and target patterns can be seen. If we switch to the result set, each and every pattern can be replaced either one by one, or we can simply replace them all. Also, there are different replacement options. Here we can select the type of action that will be performed. We can either replace a pattern, i.e. delete the old version and add the new version, or we can use Modify option, keeping the old version and only adding the new version over it. We will use the second option. As mentioned, patterns can be replaced one by one, or we can select all of them and modify them all with one click. It can be seen now that each and every pattern in the result set is modified by adding replacement pattern, positioned as it was positioned in the replacement editor document. These are the basics of the Find Exact Match function. Further information on how it can and should be used with an actual sample will be shown in the next section. Here is the floor plan sample drawing. It is one of the sample files delivered with AutoCAD, so you may recognize it. Let's try to change contents of all these rooms. Typical content is this one. There's a computer, a chair, a phone, and a table. Let's select all 4 of them and use Find Exact Match function. We should choose Full Match option. We can see here that there are 20 instances of this combination in different positions and in different areas of the drawing. If we want to replace them, we should switch to Target and Replacement tab and then click on Replacement link. Replace pattern for this demonstration is already prepared. So let's quickly switch to previously created drawing and copy new content of the room. Then we can switch back to Replacement Pattern Editor document and paste new content here. So there is a target pattern, a replacement pattern, and what we want is all of the matching patterns to be replaced. This time we want a true replacement, meaning that matching pattern is to be deleted and replacement pattern added. Therefore, in the Replace Change Options dialog, Replace mode should be chosen. It can be seen that all of the matching patterns are in fact replaced. But it can also be observed that there are other rooms with similar content that are not being replaced. The reason for this is that those patterns are actually not rotated versions, but mirror images of the previously selected target pattern. In order to replace them, another search and replace should be performed. Now we can select this as a target pattern. Run search again. Go to replacement. From the previously defined document, we can select other pattern to be used as a replacement. Select them all and replace them all. Now, new contents in most rooms can be observed. But there are a few exceptions. One exception can be seen here. It can also be noticed that a computer symbol is missing. This is the reason it has not been found in previous searches. Contents of these rooms are similar, but not identical to the target pattern. Additional find and replace procedure has to be performed in order to modify them. Here, there is another pattern whose content was not replaced. There will be more talk about it in the next section. In the previous section, a pattern was noticed which was expected to be found during the exact match search, but it was not found during that search. That pattern is this one here. So let's investigate what was the reason for it not to be found during the search. Let's close this drawing and switch to the original drawing. If you remember its name, pattern we are talking about is this one. If we select it and perform exact match search, dwgExplore will only find the pattern itself. So what was the reason for other patterns not to match this pattern? To find out why, let's first select the pattern below. Let's copy it and paste it over the pattern we are inspecting. Here, please take a look at the font sets. It can be noticed that their positions are slightly different. Exact match is intended to be used to find patterns that are the exact replica of the target pattern, so these will not match. For a situation like this one, Find Close Match functionality was developed. Let's select the pattern again and use Find Close Match option. We should keep all other settings as before, run search and inspect results. In the results set, a new column can be noticed, named Distance. Actually, it is a measure of similarity between patterns. Less distance means more similarity, with 0.01 presenting a full match between patterns. Distance of pattern to itself is 0, as it can be seen here. Then there are additional 20 patterns whose distance is very small, 0.02. Actually, these are patterns that were already found in previous exact match search. There are additional patterns whose distance is much larger, such as 0.56. These are mirror images of the target pattern. Please take notice of these two patterns. It can be seen that one pattern is the mirror image of the other one in respect to the vertical line. This is a good example where find close match is very useful. Another example will now be considered. This is one of AutoCAD's sample files. Let's focus to the pattern here. This pattern is relatively complex. It is composed of simple, basic AutoCAD objects such as lines, but it also contains a block reference. Let's select them all and perform exact match search. As it can be seen, there are 16 matching patterns in two different positions in the result set. Let's focus to the target pattern again and perform close match search. All other settings are kept the way they were before. And here are the results. There are now 32 patterns in the result set. 16 of them have a very small distance, 0 or 0.01, meaning that they are very similar to the target. Those patterns were found in the exact match search. There are additional 16 patterns whose distance is 0.13, meaning that they are somewhat different to the target pattern. So what is the difference between these two groups of patterns? To find out the answer, let's first select this pattern and copy it. When this pattern is pasted, it can be observed that patterns are similar but not identical. This is the reason for the difference between exact match search and close match search results. Another scenario where dwgExplore's Find Close Match option is very useful is presented in this demonstration. What is seen here is a floor plan drawing, the same one that was used in previous demonstrations. This time it is printed, scanned, and vectorized. Resulting drawing is composed of primitive AutoCAD objects such as lines, polylines, and arcs. On closer inspection, it can be observed that vectorization quality could be better. Identical objects in the original drawing are represented quite differently. Let's see what dwgExplore can do here. For example, there are plenty of H symbols for hydrants scattered in the drawing. After vectorization, each hydrant is represented with polyline. It is not a block, not a text, just a polyline. Let's find close match objects for this object. In this case, there are a number of objects of different orientation and different scale scattered in the drawing. So both rotation and scale invariant options should be chosen in the settings. Also, it has to be ensured that under Match Options tab, Precision Level for only partly similar patterns is selected. This precision level is prepared and designed for scenarios like this one. Once all parameters are set, the search can be performed. It can be seen that dwgExplore found number of objects similar to the target pattern. On the bottom of the list, there are a few elements whose distance to the target pattern is relatively high, which means they have little similarity. Those patterns do not represent objects we are looking for. At this point, we should introduce distance threshold to something like 0.4, so we can filter only those patterns whose distance is between 0 and 0.4. As a result, there are 20 objects that are indeed hydrants we are searching for. One way to take a look at them all is here. We will select and isolate all matching patterns. As it can be seen, all of them are objects we are interested in. Let's now end object isolation. Let's replace this pattern with something else. We will use polyline, making sure a polyline is a correctly shaped H letter. We will set its color to red so it can easily be spotted in the drawing. Switch to the result set. We can also replace patterns one by one, or we can select them all and replace all of them. Let's select something else and see what dwgExplore can do here. We will now select the door that is probably the most common element in architectural drawings. Two elements are selected, line and arc, that are used to designate the door. Find close match is then selected and the same settings as in the previous search are kept. dwgExplore found many elements that are matching the target. We can now inspect them. In the results set, we can also see the number of elements that are not very similar to the target pattern and that are not patterns we are looking for. Again, we need to filter the list in order to extract only those patterns that represent object, the door, that we are looking for. This object is the last object in the list we are interested in, so let's set threshold distance to something like 0.32, delete scale interval criteria, and as a result there are 18 doors. Let's again select them all, quickly isolate them all, and verify that all of them are objects we are looking for. We should now end object isolation and go to Replacement Pattern Editor. Again, we will use something simple as polyline as a replacement pattern. We will set its color to blue so it can easily be spotted in the drawing. All elements are already selected, so let's replace them all. It can be seen that most, if not all, of the doors we are looking for are found and modified using the custom pattern. We will now try something more difficult. Let's try to find something that is more complex. For example, let's try to find all chair symbols. Pattern representing chair symbol is selected here. It is composed of 6 simple entities, 1 arc and a few lines and polylines. Due to the relatively poor vectorization quality, If we were to be looking for full match, number of matching patterns would be small. Therefore, dwgExplore's partial match option will be used and all matching patterns composed of 3 or more entities will be accepted. Also, our knowledge about the drawing will be used. What is known is that all chairs are of the same size. We can help dwgExplore algorithm by setting acceptable scale range interval. This will significantly improve search speed. It can be noticed that most of chair elements were found correctly. This demonstration aims to show something even more difficult. In this case, we'll try to find all combinations of chair and computer symbols. This pattern is selected as a target pattern. It is composed of 12 objects. Partial match option should be used and the minimum number of entities in the matching pattern should be set to 5. Again, our knowledge about the target pattern will be used. In this scenario, we know that all chairs and all computers in the drawing are of the same size, so the acceptable scale range can be defined. This will greatly speed up the algorithm. Once the parameters are set, a search can be performed. What is noticeable here is that dwgExplore found 50 patterns that are more or less similar to the target pattern. All of those patterns whose distance to the target pattern is small are obviously patterns we are looking for. But on the bottom of the list, some patterns can be found that are not representing chair and computer combination we are interested in. Therefore, we will now filter the result set. Let's extract those patterns whose size is between 0.7 and 1.3 in respect to the target and take a quick look at them. Let's now define a replacement pattern. We could draw something simple as a replacement. Let's draw a bounding rectangle box around target pattern entities. Now let's draw a circle in the middle of the chair. We could draw another rectangle over the computer. Let's set them all to different colors. As it can be observed, dwgExplore managed to correctly find and modify most of chair and computer instances. There are just a few that are not being found and replaced. Also, please take notice here. This pattern is not exactly what we are looking for, because it is a combination of chair and a computer in a somewhat different position than in the target pattern. But it does make a lot of sense that this pattern got found, as it is very similar to the target pattern. In a situation like this, each and every instance of found and replaced pattern by dwgExplore should be inspected. What was seen in this demonstration is that even in a drawing that is the result of a vectorization process, dwgExplore can help in finding and replacing number of patterns, no matter if it is a simple single entity as polyline, something more complex as a combination of two or more entities, or a relatively complex pattern composed of 10 or more entities, as it was the case of combination of chair and computer set. Thank you for listening.